So it happened. Hey everybody, how are we doing? You alright? I'm doing good. Let me explain. So in the last couple of weeks, Sydney Moore, who's a PhD student at the University of Alberta, published a thesis on the revision and systematics of Prognathodon. This fella here, Now, I just want to clarify, this is not a personal attack, and this is not an attack on the character of Sydney Moore. Sydney Moore clearly has worked quite hard on this thesis. However, I'm here to give some constructive criticism. I'm coming from a place of a passionate mosasaurologist who loves these things, but I feel this thesis almost could have been good. Almost. Now, Prognathodon is a mosasaur that was known from the Campanian to the Maastrichtian age during the late Cretaceous, around about 83 to 66 million years ago. Many species are known from all across the world, however, there's a lot of messiness with these species and they might not be Prognathodon. In fact, this is what this thesis tackles. Now, generally, we classify species into Prognathodon based on two things. Apparently. One thing, apparently. I don't know. Basically, does it have robust teeth and a robust skull? Cool. Does it also have the two anterior teeth on the top and the bottom jaw pointing a bit forwards, or prognathus, if you like? That's where it gets its name, prognathus. Haha, the more you know. Now, because of this view, a lot of species of mosasaurs have been lumped into Prognathodon in the past, and unfortunately this has made it what we call a wastebasket taxon. Basically, if it's got robust teeth, robust skull, and teeth that point forwards, it must be Prognathodon, get on with your day, which is a bad way to do science as a whole, really. Now, there were some species that have actually previously escaped the genus of Prognathodon, like our good friend here, Thalassatitan. And this is basically what Sydney's thesis was tackling. Can we sort out the different species of Prognathodon and identify whether they are actually Prognathodon, or there's something different? Are they new genera, or are they members of existing genera? So I'm actually not going to show any of the parts of the thesis here. I'm going to put a link in the description to the thesis so you can go and read it for yourselves. But what I'm going to do is go through different points of the thesis, talk about what I thought was good, talk about what I thought was bad. Right, so let's start off with the main man himself, the type species Prognathodon solvii. Now, for a very long time in Prognathodon history, Prognathodon solvii, even though it was the type, was considered the most gracile species in the genus, which is actually quite bizarre. It was further distinguished from other species of Prognathodon by having more faceted or fluted teeth, and the teeth weren't as robust as other species of Prognathodon. Now, in Moore's thesis, Prognathodon solvii gets a reassessment, a redescription, and a re-diagnosis, which is all great. It's asserted that it is a mosasaur, and that Prognathodon as a genus probably only has this one species in it, and therefore we can't consider that Prognathodon is a robust mosasaur, if you like. But this sort of gets later contradicted down the line, and I will explain that later on. Now, in this part of the thesis, the figures are really, really well done, especially the photograph figures of the specimen. There's a lot of detail. There's even close-ups of the teeth, which I've been begging for a very long time. Thank you, Moore. Seriously, this is brilliant. I love close-ups of the teeth in scientific papers. They really do help when identifying mosasaur teeth in particular, so that's a very big plus for me. However, I will say that the reconstruction of the skull looks a bit off. It seems like the drawing next to the skull seems to have part of the maxilla missing, and maybe part of the prefrontal. I'm not too sure. I'm guessing that's just from the specimen itself, but hey-ho. Now, next up in the thesis is Prognathodon giganteus, and you're probably wondering why I haven't changed the image, and that's because Moore suggests that Prognathodon giganteus is actually a synonym of Prognathodon solvii. Now, I actually disagree with this. I think Prognathodon giganteus is probably a distinct mosasaur from Prognathodon solvii, and it's probably not belonging to Prognathodon, the genus. But, however, there's a lot of good arguments to suggest from Moore that Prognathodon giganteus is actually Prognathodon solvii, and an adult one at that. However, this ends up contradicting a point that was made earlier in the thesis about Prognathodon possibly not being a gracile mosasaur, and that's the fact that the specimen of Prognathodon giganteus, that basically becomes Prognathodon solvii, actually is robust. So is it potentially that as they get older they become more robust, in which case Prognathodon is a robust genus? It's probably not a robust genus at the current circumstance, with Prognathodon solvii possibly being the only species and therefore making it gracile, but if you've just proven that Prognathodon giganteus is an older individual, then we're basing a diagnosis of robustness or gracility on a juvenile specimen, hey-ho, the holotype of Prognathodon solvii, which, yeah, baby. Now, also covered in this thesis is Liodon, which is a genus that's been interconnected with Prognathodon for a very, very long time. and the synopsis and conclusion on this is that Liodon is definitely defunct, and that most species of Liodon probably actually belong to animals very similar to Mosasaurus and Cladastes. However, one species did get some interesting results come out of it, and it's this specimen here. This one's from France. This is a mosasaur that was called Liodon mosasauroides, but recently has been proposed to actually belong to another genus. That's right, it belongs to the genus Aremiosaurus, and this is what Moore's conclusion has come to as well. And this is on the basis of similar texturing on the skull and heterodonty in the teeth, which this specimen doesn't have as much as the Moroccan Aremiosaurus, Aremiosaurus heterodontus, but it's enough to suggest that they are both the same genus. So therefore, Aremiosaurus lived in Europe and Morocco, so far that we know. This thesis also covered some of the phylogenetics of Prognathodon, sort of sorted it out by modifying certain matrices and clearing up some of the messier characters, such as what's called the globidensine quadrate, or basically a robust quadrate, which actually is found across many other mosasaurs. So therefore, the globidensine quadrate might not be a thing, but hey ho, more research is needed to sort that out. But let's just start with Prognathodon first. However, one critique I do have of the trees that were produced in this thesis, and that's that they put Panoniosaurus ossi. It's Panoniosaurus inexpecticus. This has been an issue in many mosasaur papers. I don't know why it keeps coming up, but it's not ossi, it's inexpecticus. Please! Ah! Now, in one part of the thesis, Moore actually details about several Prognathodon species that are actually probably too fragmentary to designate as a species. Now, this includes Prognathodon lutaguni, Rapax, Hashimi, and Hude, which were too fragmentary to consider as valid and therefore have been rendered invalid. So, oh well, I don't think they'll be missed that much. Now, another species of Prognathodon covered in this thesis was Prognathodon overtoni, which is an Albertan species of Prognathodon, potentially also found in New Zealand, but they're probably not the same species as this one, so we don't need to bother about them. Now, a new specimen of this particular mosasaur was described, and it is a fantastic specimen. It's nearly a complete skeleton, and it has some real character in the skull. Please go read the thesis, because the figures on this particular species are absolutely brilliant. But this one was actually reclassified to a new genus, and that was called Brachysaurina, which is an old genus that was previously used for this particular species until it was rendered into Prognathodon, and now it's back out, so hey-ho. Now, this is the part of the thesis where it does get quite frustrating, but bear with me on this. So, Moore actually suggests that the European species of Prognathodon, Prognathodon saturata, actually belongs to the genus Flacetitum, which I absolutely agree with. However, the photos and the figures in this are a bit strange because the specimen is contained in a glass case, and the glass case wasn't removed to take pictures of the close-ups of the specimen. I don't know why this was done, but the reflections in the photos are quite irritating in my opinion, and it could have been mitigated by just saying, hey, can we remove the glass bit? Yeah, that'd be great. So, great, we got a new species of Flacetitan. That's awesome, you know, and that puts Flacetitan in Europe, as I've proposed in the previous videos before. Okay, I'm going to try and blaze through this, but first of all, Moore suggests that Prognathodon curii, yes, this guy, is actually just possibly most likely the Flacetitan atrox. What? Now, the reason he's given is that basically the bone surface isn't really discernible, and therefore we can't discern any diagnostic features, which is... The diagnostic features is that this thing has straight cone teeth, and that is different from atrox. So absolutely, this is something I disagree with entirely. Should just be Flacetitan curii. That solves it. It's distinguished based on the teeth. Boom. Okay, I'll be very quick with this last point, but Prognathodon kiander was included in this thesis and was rendered a possibly invalid species of Maricharyma, which is another genus that was resurrected. I don't know why, because Polkin et al. 2023 specimen, this complete specimen right here, was not included in that analysis, which I don't understand why, but... Basically, Prognathodon kiander was considered too fragmentary, but didn't include this specimen in the analysis, so I don't know why that was done, but whatever. Basically, I believe this thesis is well done. It's just not quite well done. I believe there's a couple of decisions here that could have been mitigated, and some other decisions that I don't know why they were made, but hey-ho. Sydney, I just want to personally say thank you for doing this thesis. This has really sorted out Prognathodon and a lot of mosasaur nightmares. So, have a good day, everybody. I'll see you later. Ta-da.